I think there's one feeling as drivers that we all dread the most. That moment when you put your foot on the brake pedal and little or nothing happens. You press the brake to the floor and you don't get the response you're expecting. There's a few things you can do. You can drop the car down a gear, use the engine's braking to try and slow you down. You can frantically try pumping the brakes, but if the fluid's all gone, well, there's not a lot you can do about that. If all else fails, you've got the good old handbrake, or as our American cousins will often refer to it, the e-brake or emergency brake. So sensing that something wasn't quite right with the brakes, I nursed the car home, parked the car up, had a quick look at the brake fluid reservoir just to check. Now the brakes on this car, the fluid was changed and the system bled about 15 months ago, give or take, so shouldn't have really been any issues there. When I had a look in the reservoir, the level had actually fallen below the minimum marker, which is never good, so I strongly suspected a potential leak. On the day that I brought the car home, the ground were wet, so I couldn't really see if there was anything sort of pulling up underneath the car anywhere, but later in the day the weather did dry out quite a lot, so I bought some brake fluid, which was fun as well, because this listed specs for this car include .3 and .4, and I wasn't entirely sure what the garage had put in, and the garage that did the work has since closed, so I couldn't even phone them to ask. So after seeking a little bit of advice from a few people in the know, I took the decision to go with some .4, put some .4 in just to top the system up. Everything seemed okay. I thought I'll just pump the brake a few times, start the engine up, just get the car rolling back and forth on the driveway, and yeah, within sort of 3 or 4 pumps the pedal started to go down to the floor again. I had a look underneath the car and there was a massive pool of brake fluid, so that pretty much confirmed my suspicion. Now at the time I didn't have the car up on any ramps, so I just had a quick look as best I could. I thought it may have been a brake cylinder at the back, because they are prone to failure, but I can't see any evidence of any leakage around the rear brake drum. What I have found though is the pipe that goes up behind the exhaust heat shield welt, there seemed to be a lot of moisture around there, so I think what I need to do is get this heat shield moved out of the way so for further inspection, and I suspect that I will probably be having to make up a brake pipe for this. Right, let's crack on. I suspect these heat shield bolts probably haven't been removed for a long time, if ever. So a quick spray of GT85, hopefully that'll help loosen things up a little bit, and we'll have to go from there and just hope for the best, I think. Looks like we've got a nice variety of different bolt sizes for this heat shield as well. Oh, that one's moving. So we can get some of the others to move as freely. Now the other issue is I may have to drop the exhaust down to get the heat shield out, but we'll see. With a bit of luck we might not have to. Don't want to risk shearing any of these bolts if we can help it. this first bolt out, but that's one of the meatier ones. Let's hope the smaller bolts come out as easily. Need a smaller socket set now. Now these smaller bolts are definitely a bit crustier than the large ones looked. Oh, but that one seems to have gone free. Bit of a crack there. I thought I'd actually sheared the bolt, but no, I think we might have got away with that. So it appears to be 3 of these that join the 2 sections of this heat shield together. Oh, that is stiff. I might give that another spray of lube. I'm getting that gap now between the heat shield. Yeah, sometimes I get these nuts that just don't want to come free. Like this little beauty here, shock it a bit. Sometimes that's just enough to free off some of the rust. But it's either freed it or sheared it. Find out in a minute which one. I think we might have got it. There's another one. Oh, that one a bit better. Actually, these ones are nuts on what appears to be a captive thread, so I definitely don't want to be shearing these off. Let's go back to this first one, see if it's any better. Still really stiff. Yes. Oh, that's actually quite hot. So that's 3 bolts now, 2 that hold these 2 sections together, 1 bolt that holds the front of the shield there. I'm hoping that's slid under and not bolted through, otherwise that could be a real pain in the backside. I'm also not sure if I'm going to have to drop down this stainless steel exhaust. Obviously it's had some hangers that were made there as well, and the other one is obviously this one at the back. I'm not sure about. I reckon this is going to have to come out as well. So that's all the bolts off now. I think it's time to drop this exhaust. Something of note here, there's actually quite a lot of space around this heat shield, and that's because the factory exhaust silencer actually has a different shaped silencer to this cylindrical can that's on this system I've had made. Actually one of 2 silencers that are on this car, but it's still louder than the factory system was. That's the thing with these power flow systems. It's looking like I bet this one This hanger was probably fitted before the back section of this exhaust were tightened up to the midsection. I really don't want to have to start unclamping this back box as well, front middle section, because it's just another job being added in. So I really am none the wiser here, because having bent this heat shield back, you can see here we've got a join. By the look of it, we've got a metal pipe which doesn't look in great shape, to be honest. See, all this outer coating has flaked away, but then we've got a rubber pipe behind it. The problem is there's moisture on both pipes, and I don't know if it's because it's leaked in front and it's just sort of blown back as the car's been driven, or whether it's the sort of hose behind that's leaked and it's run down. I really am going to have to get this heat shield off. Well, inevitably I had to take off the rear silencer to get better access. While doing it, I managed to drop this silencer straight onto the side of my head, which was fun. It's quite weighty actually, is that, but still it gives me a bit of access now. Might even have to give that a bit of a polish later on before I put it back, because I do tend to obsess about things like that a little bit. Good point though, means I can now get to here. Now this rear exhaust hanger is a screw type fitting as well, so see, we've got that big bolt on there. Certainly a lot meatier than this thing back here. Yeah, so I had hoped that this would release the heat shield down, but is that a riv nut? I think they put a riv nut through that heat shield. There's a little lug on there, look, with a thread. I bet that's got a riv nut through it. Oh dear. So there's where they have a bolt for a heat shield. I wonder if it's maybe better for me to just cut round this heat shield at this point. It should allow me to drop that down, hopefully slide this back and give me the access I need. So, off camera, I've been having a go at this heat shield with these pliers and these little snips here, screwdriver, a few other tools, and basically cut a slit in the heat shield, a straight line down there, then peeled back either side, got the screwdriver in and just sort of jimmied it from behind. Hopefully now that will be enough to release this heat shield. There we are, one heat shield removed. So to give me a chance to inspect a few areas under here as well. I can see this being one of these things where one job will turn into several other jobs, which I haven't really got time for, but you know, while this is removed, because obviously I might not have the need to remove it again. Can I see all this is still really solid actually under here? All this spare wheel well, boot floor, chassis rails, these are quite common. We've got some little bits of corrosion, surface corrosion here, look, it's flaking. Yeah, all this could just do with a bit of a tidy up. There's sort of no major corrosion anywhere, just sort of surface. Yeah, nice and solid in general, but I think this underseal could do with replacing, I think. But anyway, first job, brakes. So let's see what we've found under here now that we've got this heat shield off. So from the middle of the car everything appears nice and dry, no issues there, and then we get to this point here under the chassis rail where it was dripping before. A lot of moisture up here, so I'm pretty sure now it's definitely an issue with this pipe or this connection. The only thing is that what I'm not sure of is whether it's the metal pipe or this bit of rubber hose. Right, we are now into second day of trying to sort out the brakes on the Megane Coupe. So one big change, I've got the gazebo up around the car now because weather forecast looks a bit hit and miss, and yeah, I reckon this could take me a while. So I managed to get the exhaust off yesterday in the heat shield, identified where I think the leak is coming from on this pipe, well, where I know the leak is coming from on this pipe. So yesterday evening I went out before the shops closed, got copper pipe, flaring tool, pipe bender, a few other bits that I needed, all ready to do this one today. So what I'm doing at the minute is I'm just going to have a quick look here under the vehicle, because what I am deliberating now is what to do, whether I replace this pipe, because I think the pipe runs the full length of the car. So obviously this is the back section where it goes to the load sensing valve. It's all the way along here into this bend where it seems to have corroded. Above this axle, under here, where it then makes its way down towards the front of the vehicle. And as I say, I've not had a good look underneath the front, but I'm not aware of any joins. I think that is one pipe that runs all the way along the car. Now the pipe looks in really good condition, including in the engine bay down there at the front. So what I'm contemplating actually doing is putting a join in. So that would involve me having to cut one of these pipes under the car, which might be easier said than done. I don't know yet. It depends if I can get this all unclipped, because I'll need space around the pipe. The two pipes are obviously quite close together. So if I'm going to cut it around this section here, say, I'd need to get this green pipe unlatched to give me enough space to get the cutting tool around it, and obviously I'd need to then be able to get the flaring tool in as well. But that might be preferable to doing a full length of pipe. The other thing I'm going to do is, once I cut the existing pipe off, I can take that indoors and use it as a template to allow me to make up the new one. Right, I suppose I better get cracking. So I've identified which brake line it is we want to get it. I've unclipped a few of the attachments that hold this pipe in place, and I'm just going to try and free off this nut, which again I imagine probably hasn't been undone in rather a long time. I always like to give this a quick spray as well, this load sensing valve. These are still pretty much unobtainable, and every so often I do give this a bit of a spray, and sometimes a bit of a tap, just to try and free things off. So we've got an 11mm on this one. Rather awkward because these pipes do actually obstruct where I can get the spanner a lot as well, which isn't making this job any easier. So I've got to try and free this nut off, but without damaging any of the surrounding pipes, because I can't get in from under this side because of the spare wheel well, and I can't get in that side because of this fuel tank filler, and that's something I really don't want to be having to mess around with. The clearance here is so tight I can't even tell if I've moved this at all. I wonder if there's a way of dropping this whole assembly. Yep, this is definitely going to be a right pain of a job. So I failed to be able to undo the bolt at the end of the brake line that goes to the load sensing valve, and I've just basically spent the last few hours actually tramming around trying to find another joiner. My local Motorsave has them, but they're closed on Sundays. Halfords don't have any. Screwfix, Euro car parts, Toolstation, nobody had anything in stock or weren't open. I did manage to get to Motorsave in Selby about 20 minutes before they closed, and they managed to find me one. So what the plan is now is to actually put two joins in this pipe. So freeing the pipe from these clips here should give me hopefully enough room just to pull this one out and make a cut in the pipe. I'll then have to put a joiner in, so I'll try and put that maybe somewhere like here, Obviously I don't want it to be interfering, fouling on anything. And then I'll make a pipe that'll run around. I'll make a pipe that'll run around here, down, probably beyond the fuel tank, and then make a join somewhere further forward up the car. Right, better crack on. I've also got my trusty little drip tray here because yeah, I've got a feeling we're probably going to lose a bit of fluid out again. Right, wish me luck. Oh my, I wonder if I can get this glove over my sleeve, but it's not long enough. No, that's a shame. This is probably where I'm going to get brake fluid all down the inside of my sleeve and up my arm. So the key with this is not so tight that you're crushing the pipe. All we do is turn and back, tighten it a bit more, repeat again. And what this is doing is slowly putting a nice straight cut into this pipe. So these original ones will be steel. So we've got a flat roller there, and then we've actually got a sort of bladed disc there, and hopefully this should actually put a really nice smooth cut with a minimal of burrs as well. Oh, and there we go. Hey, and nothing's dripping yet. Right, so now to locate the work my way further down this pipe, make another cut, remove this from the vehicle, and then I'll be able to make a replacement. The problem as I get further down the car here is I haven't got much room. I don't really want to make the incision here if I can help it, partly because of space limitations, and also I don't want the joiner, which will be obviously a bit fatter than this pipe, to rub against this plastic fuel tank, because yeah, that probably wouldn't be good. I'd rather make the join a bit further down the car there. Right, so I need to get a few more of these clips undone. These are a bit of a pain as well. So these clips seem to be, so these clips under here also seem to be really stiff, so that's not going to be much fun either. But I think I'm going to have to try and get that pipe out of there just to give me a little bit more space to work with this pipe cutting tool, otherwise I'll not be able to rotate it around this pipe. So I hope you can actually see what I'm doing here. It's proving a little difficult, obviously, getting in with the tools I need, with the camera, and obviously myself, especially seeing as this as I get further down the vehicle, it's getting lower to the ground as well. Okay, so that pipe seems to be free to there. See if I can get a bit more out here, just to give me a little bit more breathing space. Because the other issue I'm gonna have down here as well will be not only getting in with the pipe cutter, I'm obviously going to have to get to this with a flaring tool as well. It's actually a small retaining lug that's sort of in here, but it's really difficult to press it down, and I really don't want to risk too much damaging that length of pipe, because obviously I want a nice clean bit of pipe to be able to make the jointer. In fact, this bit of pipe obviously I want to keep. I just want to free it off so that I can pull it away a bit more to give me a bit more working space. Oh, you've no idea how much I would love a nice big double garage and a car lift at this point. Right, that's that one out of there. Right, we'll make this cut same as we did before, just tightening the tool as we go along. Right, so again, pipe cutter in here, just get that onto our line that we want to cut. Just nip it up just enough and start rotating. So like I say, we don't want to go too tight straight out of the box because you just end up crushing the pipe, and a crushed pipe will be no good because then you're going to get flat spots where the volume of fluid can't get through as easily, and you're also not going to get a good join as well. Oh, and that one's leaking. We've definitely got fluid in that one, look. I think the other one was higher up on the vehicle, which is why we weren't losing any fluid out when I made the cut. Obviously this one's a bit lower. Right, we'll leave that one to drip and do its thing. This other pipe now that's hanging above my head, that one I can try and fish out, and we'll go indoors and we'll try and make up a replacement. This is the pipe I've removed from the vehicle, which I've cut off, working front to back here, and this is the join that failed. So now I can clearly see we've got quite a bulge here, another one here, another up here. So I dare say if I were to put a knife in there and cut that off, we would see the pipes all corroded inside. Good thing, while I've got this one off, obviously I'll use it as a template to make a replacement. The other thing that I'm also going to do is practice actually flaring this one with it being a steel pipe, because I'll have to make a flare to the steel pipe that is still on the car for me to make the joins. Now, being that this video started with me on a descent, it's hardly surprising the video has gone downhill from there. Now at this point I did try to shoot a time lapse of me flaring and bending some brake pipe. As you can see, the footage is a little dark and well, it's just not the best in general. So what I've done is I've inserted some photographs here and I'll explain a little bit about what's going on. So here we've got a flaring tool and a pipe bender that I purchased, and I practiced just putting some flares into pipes before I actually did the real thing that I was putting on the car. Now the flaring tool I bought ended up breaking, and luckily I managed to borrow another tool off a neighbour, which is sort of the cheapest one. It was like half the price of the one I purchased. The problem with these is keeping the tool dead straight so that your flare ends up nice and even and not all sort of skewed off to one side. So as I say, I've done the flare. Make sure you put your nut on before you flare your other end or bend it, otherwise you won't get the fittings in place. I then had to flare the steel pipe on the car, which was much more challenging and involved a lot of me laying underneath the car. Also note I had a G-clamp on that flaring tool because sadly the bolt at the end of it had snapped, so yeah, I was laid on the floor with a flaring tool and a G-clamp directly above my head, which is always fun. So once that was done, it was time to top the system back up. So we put some .4 back into the system, and then it was down to the unenviable task of trying to bleed the system. And yep, you've guessed it, something else I've not actually done before. I've always taken the vehicle to a garage to have that done in the past. And obviously these sealed systems, usually once they're done, it lasts for quite a while. So now we've got a pipe in place with all these joints in. I've squeezed the pedal just to check. We don't seem to have any leaks, thankfully, at the moment. So next job is to try and bleed up the system. Now I have actually just purchased a small kit that has a one-way valve in. I'm going to try out one of these. Supposedly I can do this one without the need for someone else to press the brake pedal. So this black tube goes over the brake nipple, as so. That's on our bleed nipple. Push this white cover all the way over the end. And what that actually does is it traps the pipe onto the bleed nipple. Which actually feels pretty secure. Right, so what we do then is the other end of this tube has this one-way valve. So fluid should come out, but air shouldn't go back up the pipe. Or at least in theory, that's what it says on the box. So taking a suitably sized spanner, in this case an 8mm, I'm just going to crack our bleed nipple off quarter turn. So this is the point where you would normally have someone to help you, one person pressing on the brake pedal while the other person loosens off the nipple and tightens it back up before the brake pedal's released. I didn't have anyone to help me do that, so I purchased this one-man bleed tool at a cost of, I think it was something like £2.49. Hardly surprising then, it was nothing special. It did actually help me bleed the brakes a little bit. You can see fluid there dripping out of the end. The idea is, as you press the brake pedal, it pumps fluid and subsequently any air bubbles out of the system without you having to then tighten the system up before releasing the pedal, which you can't be in the car and underneath the car at the same time. To access the brake pipe I needed to replace, it was necessary for me to drop the exhaust pipe down. This obviously gave me an opportunity to have a quick clean of this power flow silencer. This has actually been on the car close to 2 years now. I've only done this rear section, I didn't take the centre off, but what I've done here is use some T-cut on a cloth just to get a lot of the grime and dirt off, and then gone over with some metal polish. In this case it was Vitasol, very similar to Auto Sol, just a bit cheaper. But yeah, I think for almost 2 years that's not stood up too bad. Obviously I don't tend to drive the car when there's salt on the road, but the car does get used fairly frequently, and you know, it's not a garage queen, it does occasionally get caught in the rain, so I think that's not too bad. Right, I better get this all put back on the vehicle. With my shiny pipe lovingly polished and installed back on the vehicle, I decided to head out to a garage just to get them to finish bleeding the system, as I weren't entirely happy with my efforts with my £2.49 tool. There'll be some much better videos coming along very soon, so make sure you subscribe to see those, and thank you very much for watching.